blockchain is actually it's a way to build trust. Okay, in very simple terms, that's what blockchain really is. It is a digital way to make sure that, for example, information has not been modified, that it's connected to the pieces that we want, that it has not been tampered with, and so on. So if I had to rephrase it in very simple terms, it's a digital, very sophisticated bike chain, you know, that I can put around my bike and nobody can steal it. Now, what are the applications of that in education? I think we have to be very, very careful not to imagine applications where there really is no point in having them. So, for example, credentials management, things like certificates. And I think those companies that have looked at using blockchain as a way to facilitate the issuing of certificates, the verification, the validation of certificates, and so on, I think those are on the right track. I think when we start going overboard in trying to apply blockchain in other areas, I think that's a mistake. And I think it's a mistake because what we are selling is the idea of the technology rather than selling a solution that is based on the technology. And I think that's always a big, big mistake to make. Now, with AI, I think AI has huge applications in the education field. Everything from making individualized learning possible without actually meaning that the teacher has to individually adapt content, for example, to, for example, making sure that learning parts or assessments are adaptive, so that, for example, if you have a test and you're testing comprehension or knowledge of a subject and somebody gets a question wrong, AI could, for example, give you a follow-up question that is similar to the first question to make sure that, did you get it wrong because you really don't know the subject, or did you get it wrong because maybe the wording of the first question wasn't clear enough, and so on. So, stuff like that is again possible. I think we have to be very careful, though, again, not to oversell what AI can do, and not to create visions of the future where AI can do everything. I think at the end of the day, AI is going to play a key role in education. There's no doubt in my mind that AI will become more and more entrenched. I think, though, that the smart way of entrenching AI is going to be so that, again, it emphasizes the convenience of having AI rather than sort of in your face showing you that there's AI behind this. I'll give you a simple example. There are tools out there already right now. For example, Microsoft has invested a lot of resources into building AI into many of their tools. What does that mean for the student or for the teacher? It means, for example, that if you're doing a presentation and you put an image on a page, you will get a little pop-up, and the pop-up will tell you, hey, I have some ideas for you on how you can make this presentation look better. Or I have some ideas for you on how you can find, follow-up pictures. There are, for example, tools right now where you can turn on a research assistant, for example, and while you are working on a topic, the system will automatically in the background go and look for articles, books, references, reading lists, and so on for you to include in your paper, which is, of course, convenient. It makes life easier. But even more importantly, I think AI can play a huge role in helping students who have specific challenges in learning. So, for example, and again, if I had to mention one tool here from Microsoft, it's the immersive reader. So Microsoft has developed a tool which allows students who have reading disabilities or reading difficulties to just highlight any part of text, whether it's in a browser or whether it's in Word or in any tools on screen, and the system will take that text, reformat it for you automatically to have like a large font, and then the student can either have the text read out to them by a native speaker, or they can click on individual words. They can hear the recording for just a word. They can see a picture, for example, displayed to explain the meaning of that word. If you have, for example, a non-native speaker, so the reality today in many schools is that there are multicultural classrooms. So what do you do if you have a student who doesn't understand the language in which the lesson is being delivered as their first language. What the immersive reader can do for you is you can set a translation language, and when you click on a word or when you click on a button, that word is also displayed in another language, and you can listen to it being spoken in that language in case you want to hear it. So it's of huge, tremendous help to any student who's struggling with these kind of things. The sad thing is that very few teachers actually know about it or implement it. I mean, not very few. It's a very widely used program. But for me, it's one of those things that everybody should be using, everybody should be aware of. Because why wouldn't you use a program that's going to significantly improve not only the student's experience, but your experience as a teacher? Because you know that there's better comprehension, which means there's going to be less follow-up questions.